It was the British Secret Intelligence Service who managed to start and lose the battle for Helmand before our main force had even arrived in the province. Their Machiavellian actions in 2005 transformed a relatively stable province into a full-blown counterinsurgency battle that has claimed so many military and civilian lives. It was the opium-smoking British MP Rory Stewart who shared the findings of the Special Air Service's 2005 reconnaissance of Helmand. "There isn't an insurgency in Helmand, but we can give you one," they said. The Secret Intelligence Service acted on this advice by favouring one Helmand drug trafficking gang over another. The consequence of this meant that our stated mission in Helmand was lost before it had even begun, and in the end the only winners would be the drug traffickers. The British military strategy in the province also created the perfect conditions for the Taliban's attack on Camp Bastion 7 years later. That attack resulted in the greatest loss of aircraft the US military has suffered since the Viet Cong Tet Offensive of 1968. The success of that attack can be attributed directly back to the failures of British intelligence. All of this information is already in the public domain, but it was only my experiences serving with the British Army that made me realise that this was Britain's Third Opium War, waged in Helmand from 2005 to 2013. NATO forces guarded this opium harvesting. British soldiers in concrete watchtowers just 200 metres away on Camp Bastion's airfield protected these poppy farmers from interference by the Afghan army or police. During the opium harvesting season of April 2012, I was ordered to stop any Afghan security forces even entering this valley on the eastern perimeter of the airfield. We were told that those security forces were harassing the farmers, and it was our task to stop that happening. A NATO quick reaction force was poised to intercept any such incursion by the local security forces, stood ready to react to any such reports coming from our guard towers. Based on my experiences, I have no doubt that I was personally complicit in the production of a Class A drug. I guarded illegal opium harvesting on Afghan government land, protecting it from the same security forces we were supposedly training to eradicate poppies. Our American allies in Camp Bastion were very concerned about the security situation too. One US general later said,
"We literally had poppy growing right up against the perimeter fence. That was another thing that Major General Gurganis tried to take action on, but he wasn't able to accomplish that. It was because the Afghans had to do it. We weren't allowed to. The biggest external threat to the base came from there."
So the US military appears to have been unaware that it was the British military protecting the poppy fields, actively stopping any interference by the local security forces. To quantify the external threat to the base that concerned the Major General, this map shows the location of the opium harvesting in April 2012 and its proximity to where Taliban special forces breached the camp's defences during their devastating attack in September 2012. So within the first month of my first operational tour with the British Army, I was providing an armed guard to illegal opium harvesting and being told to ignore my security concerns of the airfield's vulnerability. The poppy fields and opium harvesting were on land controlled by the local Afghan governor. That governor was Mohammed Daoud Norzai of Washir district, a member of the very powerful Norzai clan, who were already heavily implicated in opium trafficking. There can be no doubt as to our knowledge of the Norzai clan's links to drug trafficking. They were so notorious they even got their own mention in the Helmand tour guide, an intel summary issued to every British service member deploying to Afghanistan. I've compressed the clan's tour guide entry to highlight 2 points. The first acknowledges that the Norzai tribe are some of the most influential in southern Afghanistan. The second point adds that the man, recognised as the Norzai's leader, has been implicated with drugs trafficking in the past. And so it must be asked, when I deployed to central Helmand to eradicate poppies in April 2012, why did I end up guarding opium harvesting from poppies grown on Afghan government land? Not only did we secure and irrigate these poppy fields, we knew the Afghan governor who controlled the land had links to drug trafficking through the powerful Norzai clan too. But the greatest crime was that we did this on exactly the same day as other British soldiers were walking through IED-laced poppy fields on a poppy eradication mission called Operation Sharfuck, just 10 miles further south. This mission had failed 24 hours before it begun, but British officers still insisted it went ahead, most likely because there was an important BBC journalist embedded with the Grenadier Guards. Some of our bravest sent to risk their lives on a fool's mission intended to deceive TV news viewers back home. To understand this and what happened beside Camp Bastion in the summer of 2012, you have to go back to 2005, when a flat area surrounded by barren desert was chosen as the base's location. This satellite image shows the base in 2010. The runway, main camp and the poppy fields on the airfield's southeastern perimeter are all clearly visible. But in 2004 this was an empty patch of desert save for a small Special Forces outpost. It was chosen as the location for NATO's main operating base in 2005 when construction started. The runway, an air bridge to the outside world, was up, running and awaiting the main force deployment in April of 2006. All personnel and high-value kit passed through this airport. It was a mission-critical infrastructure providing medical evacuations back to Europe as well as air support to our scattered bases across Helmand. And that's why this location was chosen. Surrounded by barren desert with no inhabitants, any approaching attackers would have been detected and stopped before they'd even got close to the fence. But in 2008 that situation changed, and the first signs of agriculture in the valley beside Camp Bastion can be seen on the southeastern corner. In 2009 the fruits of that labour, ripe fields, can be seen too. As the base expands, so does the activity right beside the perimeter fence. These fields were almost underneath any incoming aircraft flight path, and the farmers' compounds were just a few hundred metres from that mission-critical infrastructure. As the base expanded, the settlement on its southeastern corner grew too, big enough to warrant a name. The Afghans told us it was called Nawabad village. Nawabad is Pashtun language for new buildings. So this was New Buildings Village. The fact that this was barren and unoccupied desert before our arrival in 2006 was confirmed in a video on the British Army's official YouTube channel. that video was deleted after I provided a link to it in my report about the Taliban's 2012 attack on Camp Bastion's airfield. But my analysis of blurred satellite images, even when combined with my photos and first-hand testimony from a Camp Bastion airfield guard tower, they prove nothing. They alone are not prima facie evidence as is required by the Crown Prosecution Service. And that's why I have these documents to prove my allegations of British military complicity in the production of a Class A drug. This is my prima facie evidence. This image of the southeastern corner of Camp Bastion is clear enough to see my guard tower. It's clear enough to see and distinguish the poppy fields too. And it is clear enough to see that the fields were irrigated by water purified and stored in Camp Bastion before being directed to the poppy fields via irrigation channels. These poppy fields were irrigated and protected by NATO forces. The US government-funded Institute for Peace published these high-resolution analysed images. They compare 2014 and 2015 images of Camp Bastion, stating the February 2014 image shows water stored inside the base as well as the runoff subsequently used to irrigate the poppy along the perimeter wall of the base. And that the March 2015 image shows the lack of storage water and runoff and a substantial drop in land under agriculture, including poppy cultivation. To repeat that prima facie evidence, that's the United States Institute on Peace asserting that water stored inside Camp Bastion was used to irrigate poppies growing along the perimeter fence, and that when British forces left Camp Bastion there was a substantial drop in poppy cultivation in that area too. Operational reports published by the United States Marine Corps confirm that Mohammed Daoud Norzai, the Washir District Governor, was responsible for the Afghan government land besides Camp Bastion. Other reports by the Marine Corps show a seemingly close relationship between Mohammed Daoud and NATO commanders, plus regular interaction with the residents of Nawabad village. The British Army's operational tour guide for Helmand confirms the Norzai clan's historical links to drug trafficking. And it is this United Nations report on effective monitoring of poppy eradication in a conflict zone that highlights Britain's further favouritism towards Mohammed Daoud Norzai and the Norzai of Washir district in Helmand. This map from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime 2012 report shows district governor-led eradication operations marked in red. The glaring omission is Washir district. This map shows that Governor Mohammed Daoud made no effort to eradicate poppy in Washir, despite the appearance that every other district in the British area of operations had done. The anomaly is shown again in this UNODC map, recording farmers' resistance to poppy eradication efforts. Washir is in the eradication zone, but no resistance was recorded. Either there was no resistance whatsoever by the farmers to the destruction of their crops, or there were no actual eradication efforts to resist. The districts marked bright red to represent violent resistance to eradication efforts only highlights Washir's apparent omission from the eradication efforts. And that's how Britain's Third Opium War was waged, by the favouring of one drug trafficking clan over another. the Norzai clan of Washir district over the Akhundzadas of Musakala in this case. It's possible to assign an exact date and time to the opening shot in this Machiavellian conflict. That would be the moment in June 2005 when Rosalind Marsden, the British ambassador to Kabul, walked out of her 30-minute meeting with the governor of Helmand province and decided he needed to be sacked. With the endorsement of the Secret Intelligence Service, but not Parliament's, Ambassador Marsden turned Helmand politics on its head. A new governor, matching the British Secret Service's requirements, was installed in November 2005. He was the very nice but completely powerless puppet governor known as Engineer Dowd. The former governor, Sheikh Mohammed Akhundzada, was no angel, but he was a long-term ally of President Karzai, related to him by marriage. NATO had been funding Sheikh Mohammed while he was governor of Helmand, and this allowed him to maintain a 3,000-strong militia of very effective security forces. When he was sacked, NATO stopped funding the salaries of his militia. Sheikh Mohammed moved to Kabul to become a powerful member of the Afghan Senate, appointed by his close friend President Karzai, and his now unemployed militia simply joined the ranks of the newly created Helmand insurgency. Sheikh Mohammed and his militia had been close allies of the US Special Forces operating in Helmand. You can make a lot of criticisms of the man, but it is a fact that during his 2002 to 2005 governorship, there were only 5 coalition forces killed in Helmand in those 4 years. There was no insurgency or significant Taliban presence in the province, and Al-Qaeda were long gone too.